Hello, I want to show you today how I make my kombucha. So what we're going to need is a jar that is well sanitized. So what I do is just run it through the dishwasher and then I'll splash a little boiling water in it and rinse it out just to make sure it's good and clean. We're also going to need sugar. So I like to use this fair trade. Not sure if you can see that well, but a fair trade organic sugar. You can also use raw sugar, it's really good, whatever you have. The next thing we're going to need is some tea. I have a Irish breakfast tea, that's a black tea. So I just put some of that in my little, I like to use loose leaf tea. I like the quality of it and the taste, but if you have tea bags, you can use those too. So I usually use a black tea for a base. Sometimes I'll do all black tea, and then I will add another, maybe just for fun. I got this from Gong Fu Tea here in Des Moines. It's a rooibos. I'll add a little of that in. So we have jar. We have a little rooibos for fun. We have jar, sugar, tea. We also need some good clean water, so distilled water or however you can filter it best. Make sure it's not chlorinated. And then we're going to need a SCOBY. So this interesting science experiment looking thing in here is our SCOBY, and there's enough in here to make a couple batches. So if anyone needs a SCOBY in your local, hit me up. If you are watching and you make kombucha and you have extra SCOBY, if you want to put a comment in, if you're in the Des Moines area, and maybe share some SCOBY with somebody else who wants to start, that would be awesome to build our community and share. So the SCOBY is the mass in here, and it's sort of this jellyfishish, interesting thing. They actually grow, so anyone else who makes kombucha can usually spare some SCOBY because you can use a small amount of SCOBY to start a new batch, just like a decent size. And they kind of grow, with each batch, they grow in layers, so you can peel a top layer off. Sometimes the layer you put in will fall in, which is totally fine, and a new SCOBY will form on the surface of your kombucha. All of that is good and fine. So, and then also what is in here is what we call starter. So if you see a kombucha recipe and it calls for so many cups of starter, starter is just finished kombucha. That's all it is. So for a kombucha to be a starter, it cannot be flavored. So if you get a SCOBY from someone and there's not enough starter for your recipe, you can go to the store and get a really good brand kombucha, just plain, not flavored, and then it can be used as starter. Or hopefully your friend gives you that too. So that is what we'll need for ingredients. We have, and also our tea strainer. So you might have bags or you might have a little metal mesh guy like this. I like to use this and loose leaf. So we have all of our tools. Oh, and just the other thing is something to cover with. So I like to use these unbleached coffee filters and a rubber band to cover my kombucha. So let's get started. The only thing you missed here is I went ahead and boiled, I just use my tea kettle because it's easy to pour from. So it takes me 2 tea kettles full. So I went ahead and boiled 1 tea kettle of water and put it in my jar. So for measurements today, we're going to do a gallon jar. Some people will do, you can do it as small as a quart, half gallon, gallon. Some people have 2-gallon jars. So you'll just do the math on how much of each thing you need. So for this, the recipe I like, there's always many recipes out there. The recipe that I like is a 1-gallon jar with 1 cup of sugar, so we're going to dissolve our sugar in. I swirl, I guess, because I feel like the less possible contaminants I put in here, the better. So I have, washed my hands really clean. I've cleaned my workspace. Everything's nice and sterilized. So my sugar's dissolving. There it goes. And I already boiled some more water, so we're going to add that. And remember, we're going to want to leave space for our 2 cups of starter and our SCOBY. So to me, this is full enough. Now we're going to add our tea. So if you are making this with tea bags, see, my recipe says a quart jar uses 2 tea bags and a 1/4 cup of sugar and a 1/2 cup of starter. So if you take that all times 4 for a gallon, 4 quarts make a gallon, you would use 8 tea bags and 1 cup of sugar and 2 cups of starter. So that's the recipe I'm using here. I don't measure my tea exactly. I just know from making this over and over in experience that this is approximately how much tea you would actually get in 8 tea bags. So that's how I do it. I use a chopstick to hold this. You do it however you like. If you have the tea bags, you just toss them in and you just have to fish them out later. So this is my preferred method. So what I'm going to do is let this steep, and to me it should steep for, I let it sit for about an hour because I get busy and life goes on, and then I come back and go, oh, it's definitely done. Some might say it only takes 10 or 15 minutes. I like it to be nice and strong. So this is going to sit and steep, and it's going to make sweet tea. So all we're doing is making sweet tea. You can use a variety of types of tea, like I said, or a blend of types. So I just like to see what I have on hand. But I always make black tea, an unflavored black tea, my base, just as my preference. And then I can add a little something. And remember, if you watch my other video, check out my video on flavoring this and doing the second ferment. In the video I posted, I did ginger peach, and I'll post other flavoring videos as well. If you have any ideas of flavors that you love doing, please put in the comments to give people ideas of what flavors they can do. So this is going to be step 1, making your kombucha, and then you can also flavor it later. So you don't really need to introduce a whole lot of flavor at this point, but that's up to you. You can play around. So you might keep a little sticky note, a fermenting journal. I like to keep a journal for all my cultures so that I remember what recipes I really enjoy and what is working for me, because I do a little different here and there. So I'll put a sticky note on this just that says black tea and rooibos, and I will put the date on it so that I know when it's going to be done. So in this stage, it's steeping. And then when it is done steeping, behind the scenes, I will remove my tea bag, and then I'm just going to let this sweet tea sit until it is about room temperature, or I'm just going to feel my starter and SCOBY, and I'm going to feel this later. And when they feel like they're the same temperature, I will just add the starter to this, because I don't want to add it to the hot tea. It's not going to like that. So the tea will be made, it will be cooled, I will add my starter, I will add my SCOBY. Really clean hands, you just reach in and grab that SCOBY and place it in. If it sinks, don't worry about it. If it floats, it's fine. Whatever happens. It's pretty simple. So then we'll have our starter, our SCOBY, and everything in here, and then it's ready to be set aside to ferment. So then that's when I'm going to take my cover. I'm going to cover my jar, because I don't want anything to be able to get in there. I like these because nothing can get through. Some people will use a towel, and as long as you know that your towel is really clean and that the holes can't allow anything, even small bugs that are attracted to the sour of a ferment, you might just double fold it before you put it over if you really want to use cloth. So when I use these, I'll just cover it, secure it with the rubber band, and I'm going to set it aside. The secret to my kombucha is that I let it sit for 1 month. I've heard a lot of folks don't let theirs go that long, but you should know that you're putting sugar in here, and the fermentation process is going to eat the sugar. So if you don't want to drink the sugar, then you want to let the ferment eat up all those sugars for you. So what it produces is a probiotic, right? Which is why we're drinking kombucha, because it's yummy and it's really good for our digestion and our body, and those probiotics are really important, and this is our immune system, so we really want to take care of it with good things like probiotics. So the longer this sits, the more probiotics are in there. So 1 month, so four or 5 weeks is generally how long I let mine go. And then when that time is up, what you're going to have is a very sour beverage that's not bubbly because it's been open and breathing. And then that's when you'll do your second ferment to add really good flavors to it and put a tight lid on it so that the bubbles can form, and you'll have the delicious flavored fizzy drink that you can buy at the store for way more money than making it at home. So at that point that it's finished, what I will do, and you'll see this in the other video, that part of the cycle is I will say, oh, my kombucha's done. I'm going to remove 2 cups of kombucha from that finished product, and I'm going to pull out the SCOBY and put it in a container to set aside for my next batch. So that's where this came from. So when you set this to ferment, when it's covered and fermenting for the next 4 or 5 weeks, it's just going to go out of sunlight, away from my other ferments. It's not friends with the others, so it likes to be alone. And just in a place with decent airflow. So I'm not going to put my kombucha in the back of the cupboard. I'm going to put it in a shady part of my house so that it can just sit and do its thing, preferably at about room temperature, so not right by the heat vent, not right by the window. And that's about it. So please, thanks for watching, and please comment or add any questions that you have. I love questions. I love to have the open dialogue with you guys, so let me know what you think. Thank you.